welcome. This is our second week of teacher training videos from the Children's Museum of New Hampshire, and we are working on a series of project-based learning projects that you can do with limited supplies in your classroom. My name is Coley.
My name is Meredith.
And we are the education team at the Children's Museum of New Hampshire, and today I'm going to be teaching about animal adaptations. So this is a subject that comes up in a lot of different grades for different curriculums, so depending on what you're teaching, you may want to tweak these activities, and you can always change them for what you think your group of students can handle. But these are all hands-on, they involve moving around, and these are about different senses that animals have that might be different from our own. So you can always use this as maybe an introduction to a lesson about adaptations or an extension of a lesson about adaptations. Each of the activities is pretty short to run depending on how you want to do it. The first one is about owls. So this one is called Owl Ears, and the way it works is your students will either sit in a circle and the instructor can have a pair of spoons. We thought these would be easy to find. You could bring some in from home or maybe the teacher's lounge. But if you don't have access to spoons, you can also do this by snapping. We suggest spoons because if the students are going to be doing this part, some of them don't know how to snap.
Yeah, not so much.
So it's a little easier. So what you're going to do ahead of time is you're going to ask the students to sit in a circle. They're going to close their eyes. This is probably the hardest part.
This is me.
And keep their eyes closed.
Okay. I'm going to close my eyes.
And the instructor or another student will come around, and you're going to clap the spoons either in front of someone, behind them, or to one side or the other side, but never too close to someone's ear. We don't want to hurt their ears. And then the student's job is to guess where that sound was coming from. So
cool.
You ready?
I'm ready. Oh my god, it's that. Oh, oops.
All right, you can open your eyes.
How'd I do?
So you got most of them right.
Oh.
The one you got wrong was the second one I did was in front of you.
Okay, and when you were demonstrating, I couldn't tell which one was in front and which one was behind. That was cool.
That's how the experiment is supposed to work. Because owls, the lesson in this experiment is to show the way
I am not an owl.
Right. The way that humans hear compared to owls. So owls have, some owls have asymmetrical ears, which means that they are not right across from each other like ours are. So the way I have students do this usually is touch your ears and then move your fingers toward each other. And they should meet right at your nose.
Oh, yeah.
Your fingers meet together. That's because our ears are symmetrical. They're right across from each other. And that means when we hear sounds that are in front of or behind us, it's hard to tell where they're coming from. But we use visual cues to know where those noises are coming from. So if we're crossing the street, we're looking for cars, we can tell better. But when our eyes are closed, it's a lot harder. Yeah. So the ones on the side, the students will usually get right, but in front or behind are much harder to tell. So you can kind of compare to owls hearing compared to the way that people hear. So this is something you could do to talk about adaptations, but you could also talk about the five senses and the way that we hear compared to an owl.
And obviously for an owl, that's really important because when they're hunting, they need to tell when something is in front or behind of them, right?
Yeah, it helps them to pinpoint prey, and they can also hear a much larger range of sounds than humans can hear. So they can hear an animal moving even 6 inches under the snow, some owls. And all of this we have in a lesson plan written up with some links to different websites about owls.
You do it with the lights off too. Right?
Yeah, you could. You can make it dark and make it a little more interesting. So you could do that by having the students sit in a circle and going around and having each one give them a chance to guess, and then tell them right away if they got it right or wrong. So that they can, because you won't remember who got it right at the end. Or you can have, if your students can handle it, you can have them pair up and do it for one another and just take turns, and that way everyone's doing it at the same time. It's just really important that the clacks of the spoons are not too close to anyone's ears, and they're clearly in front or behind. Over someone's head, it would just confuse them.
Yeah.
So you just have to make sure it's right in front or right behind.
That was really cool.
So that was owl ears. So all you need for that is either 2 spoons or enough spoons for your groups of students in pairs. So it's basically one spoon per student.
Cool.
So the second one that I'm going to talk about is It's called Binoc Walk. So it's about vision, and it's about the way that deer see. This is not a deer, this is a beaver, just in case anyone doesn't know. But this is gonna be our pretend student for this one, so you can see it. So what you wanna do for this activity is make some trails on the floor with tape. You can use masking tape or any colorful tape that you might have. I use green so that we can see it a little easier. And you could do one trail, you could do two, just leave some space between them on the floor. And you wanna probably do 5 or 6 feet of the trail. And for this activity, students are going to see what it would be like to have their depth perception reduced. And the way we're gonna do that is with a pair of binoculars. We have this fun kid pair. So you will need a pair of binoculars for this activity. There's probably someone you know that is a birder that you could borrow some from. So ask around with your colleagues, coworkers. Someone probably has a pair you can borrow, and just ask the students to be really careful with them because it is something that can break.
Tool.
Yeah, these are a kid friendly pair that we have.
Indestructible.
Yeah. So this lesson is about binocular and monocular vision. So animals with binocular vision have 2 eyes in the front of their face, just like us and this beaver toy. And the way I like to remember it is that animals with eyes in the front hunt. So animals with eyes in the front are usually predators, and animals with eyes on the side hide. So usually animals with eyes on the side are prey animals.
Cool.
And they have monocular vision. It doesn't mean that they're a cyclops. It means that they see with one eye at a time. So that means that a deer standing in the middle of a field is getting a view of one side of the field with one eye and one side of the field with the other. So that's an adaptation to help them survive and hide from their predators. So eyes in the front hunt, eyes on the side hide. So to simulate this is the part that's a little tricky to explain. Kids sometimes don't get it. They're going to look through the wrong end of the binoculars. So usually we look through the end that makes things look bigger. Instead, we're gonna look through the wrong end with one eye and close the other eye. And that's gonna make things look farther away. So it takes away a little bit of your depth perception. So you're gonna look through the wrong end with one eye, close your other eye, and they have to walk on the tape. And it is pretty hard. It actually, animals who have monocular vision, their depth perception is not this bad, but it sort of simulates if a deer were trying to look straight ahead, the way it might see. They only have a small range where they can see with binocular vision. Most of their vision is monocular vision. So this gets a little silly. Kids kind of, could fall off the tape a little, but it should be pretty safe as long as everyone's walking and looking through the wrong end of the binoculars for that. And then there's some discussion questions you can ask them about it. How did it work? Do you think this is how the animals really see? And then you can remind them that eyes in the front hunt, eyes on the side hide. Maybe challenge them to think, can you think of any animals with eyes in the front that aren't prey animals? Can you think of any animals with eyes on the side that are predators? Hammerhead shark. Hammerhead shark's the only one I know off the top of my head, but so that one's pretty fun. It's pretty active. You need a little space to do it, but that's a good one, and it's about deer.
Cool.
And the next one is another active one you're going to need some space for. For this one, I'm going to use our friends, the polar bears, to represent the students. So for this one, you want your students to form a circle. And they're all going to be playing some different roles.
So cute.
And this is a game called Bat and Moth. And this one is about the way that bats hunt for food. So they're going to simulate a bat hunting for food. And for this one, you need a blindfold. We're going to use our friend, the beaver again. Yeah, so we're going to blindfold the beaver. And for this one, if you have access to something like these shaker eggs, maybe if you have a music teacher in your school that would let you borrow them.
You can also make your own with plastic Easter eggs and like popcorn kernels and tape.
Yeah, and tape them really tightly shut. You can make your own of these, but you really don't even need these. You can do this activity with just your voices.
So it's gonna fall off.
And if there's one thing I learned from doing outdoor ed for many years and playing lots of games with kids, It's that they love to be blindfolded. They don't necessarily love not being able to see because sometimes they're peeking, but they love to be blindfolded. So
Interesting.
you'll want to make sure that they know right away that they'll get a chance to either be the bat who's blindfolded or the moth who is not blindfolded during this game. You probably won't have time to be both. So
Okay, you'll get to
so
be one or
front
the
load
other.
that a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So everyone on the outside of the circle is a tree. And their job is actually just to keep the bat and the moth in bounds so that nobody gets hurt. You can have the kids link hands if they can handle it. Or you can have them just stand there and kind of put their arms out. And if the bat's the only one who can't see. So if the bat gets too close to any of the trees, the tree can whisper, "I'm a tree." And sort of gently
That's not creepy at all.
nudge the bat back toward the center. If the trees get, a little too loud with their "I'm a tree" whispering, you can take that part out.
You could just tap them or something.
Yeah.
To get back.
So the bat is looking for food, and it's trying to catch a moth. So the bat's going to shake its egg shaker, and every time the bat shakes, the moth has to respond. And I like to do this as a walking game, so it doesn't get too dangerous. The bat is just trying to tag a moth. And you could have more than one student being the moth, so there could be 2 or 3, makes it a little harder. But if you don't have the shaker eggs or something to make noise, the bat can say bat, bat, bat. And then the echo coming back from the moth is moth, moth, moth. And then they try, it's kind of like Marco Polo
Yeah.
with a blindfold
Yeah.
on land. And there's a circle of trees.
Right. You could probably clap too, right?
Yeah, clapping would work.
Yeah.
Anything the students can remember to do and make it fair, because fairness is very important too.
This is fair.
So once they catch the moth, then someone else can change out and be the moth, and someone else can be the bat, and they can take turns playing this game to simulate how echolocation works. So some key points, some vocabulary is teaching them about echolocation, but also just letting them know that bats are not actually blind. That's a myth. And all this is in the lesson plan, and some background on bats and how they catch food. And something I like to talk about too is like what was realistic about this and what wasn't. So some kids might say having the circle that they had to stay in isn't realistic. But if you are teaching them about habitats, you could bring up that, well, do animals have boundaries? Are there some places where they can't live? And you could talk about development and the ways that humans maybe build a road or build a house and create fragmented habitats. So you can talk about, there might not be boundaries like we had in this game, but animals might have these invisible boundaries that we don't really see or notice that keeps them from finding food and things like that.
You know what else they'll say is unrealistic? Trees can't talk.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's why they whisper. It's like the wind blowing through the tree.
Okay.
It's like the leaves rustling.
Yeah, that's cute.
So, yeah, so that's the bat and moth game. So those are 3 games you can do about animal adaptations. And then an extension you can do for this is having the kids create their own creature that has adaptations. So they can draw it in its habitat, and they can write what kind of adaptations it has and how that helps it survive.
Cool.
That's always a fun, creative activity that goes along with this.
Next week we're talking about paper engineering. We're going to be doing some engineering using only pieces of paper and tape. It'll be pretty exciting. And our polar bears. Obviously. Bye.
Bye.